So yeah, welcome to the privacy talks today. I'm very glad and honored to invite Mr. Edson from Brazil. It's amazing to have a privacy talk. I'm very appreciated to have exclusive topics with him. He has a very great experiences, not only for the robotics space, but also very ethical approach with the new technologies. So thank you, Edison, coming to the privacy talk this time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So first of all, I'd like to introduce his background and profile. Mr. Edison is IEE senior member of the IEEE Robotics and Automation Societies and IEEE Standards Associations over the past years. He has worked in different international initiatives related to artificial intelligence, standardizations, robotics, and ethics. As a members, UN Secretary General's high-level panel on digital corporations, as academic committee members, Grande University Robotics Institute. As a chair, IEEE RAS SA P7007, Ontological Standard for Ethical-Driven Robotics and Automation System Working Group. As a vice chair, IEEE RAS Ontologies for Robotics and Automation Working Group. As a member, the CXI Global Council on Extended Intelligence. As a fellow, EP3 Foundation. As a members, the IEEE Global Initiative on Ethics of Automatics and Intelligent System. As past vice chair, IEEE RAS Standard Committee for Standards Activities. As past member, IEEE RAS Special Interest Group on Humanitarian Technologies. As past associate vice president, IEEE RAS Industry Activities. As board, past member, IEEE Tech Ethics Ad Hoc Committee. As founding chair, IEEE South Brazil RAS chapters. So those are very exclusive, the great achievement in the past, Mr. Edson. I'm very happy to introduce your profiles. So our first topics about the Mr. Edison's story. So this is a very interesting part. That's why I want to introduce the first topics. So Mr. Edison, you have been working on many space and fields so far, not just only for the technical parts, they also you have some experiences in ethical actions. So how did you get involved to this high-tech industry in your life? Even you have a very different background from other tech people, the experts in your life.
First of all, I would like to thank you so much for your kind invitation. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here and talk about a bit about my background and also history and the future of the AI and robotics domain. I've been involved I started, in fact, in the IEEE a long time ago as a student. I've been published several papers in the robotics domain. And as our society is very open to new members, and also it's open to the participation of the global community, I started to be involved in different kind of activities. I think that my very first activity that I be involved in, it was with the standardization process. So I started in this working group called the Ontology for Robotics Automation in 2010. And since then, I saw a lot of opportunities I work with some members, RES members, in the humanitarian activities. Like I was one of the co-organizers of a competition, international competition on humanitarian demining. So we proposed a competition where the students could develop the solution to identify the position of landmines and create a map to calculate the routes where people could travel without step over the mines. So, and after that, I continued to be involved in the standardization process, and I saw 5 years ago the ethical domain. When I realized that my background, this topic was missing, and this topic was very relevant, I started dedicating all my attention to this domain. So I joined the IEEE Global Initiative. I proposed a working group to create an international standard in that domain. And 2 years ago, the UN Secretary General invited me to join the high-level panel on digital cooperation with several high-profile people, like Madame Melinda Gates, like Mr. Jack Ma, and Nobel Prize, 2 Nobel Prizes, and former president of Switzerland and others. And in that panel, we discussed several topics that includes artificial intelligence. And this year, I was invited to join the UNESCO ad hoc expert group to create the very first normative instrument on ethics of artificial intelligence. So I started as a student. I've been involved in some initiative, international initiative in the IEEE. And after, as the our society is very open, by the way, one of the presidents is Japanese, Satoshi Tadokoro. Professor Satoshi Tadokoro, it was a president of our society. Another president is Toshio, Professor Toshio. So we have a very strong participation of Japanese in our society.
Great. So last time we had a talk about your ESCA activities. So you said it's just your hobbies. I'm very inspired. You said this is a hobbies, right? So
yeah, exactly.
I'm personally very interested in the actions that you said is a hobby. So what is the motivations to work for the ethical with the new technologies?
Thank you so much for posing these questions. I said that is a rubbish because this domain is very emergent. When you're talking about ethics, you're talking about human rights, it's very emergent. And as a professor, I'm a professor in my university, these efforts, this initiative are not well recognized by my university, by Brazilian government, because they are very new, very emergent. They are interested in published paper in technical domains, like published paper in technical journal, in technical conference. And what we are doing at that moment are create some guidelines that will be used to inspire the development of national, international, regional strategies on the domain. So they do not know how to evaluate it. So for me, they will not count for me as part of my career in the technical domain. So, but I saw how important are this domain. So when I have some free time, I dive deep, and I start to I help to formulate this guideline. I help my colleagues to provide my different perspective, because I'm from South America. my different perspective on this topic. So that's the reason why it's a hobby, because do not count for my career in my university, in the Brazilian government. And that is something that I believe is very important for all of us. As I came from a poor region, I know that I can give a contribution to the community that I was raised. So that is my main motivation, to give it back. To give it back, something that is very important is that the Brazilian government, the Brazilian, found me back to my society.
Yeah, that's very great stories that I have been like seen in some many activities that you've been involved in many initiative, especially like you are the many part of the IEEE. I guess
Exactly.
those are very great initiatives in the standardizations. If those activities included the ethical decisions, that could be the spreading those philosophy to the international approach. So your role is very significant for the global inclusion of the ethical technology in the world.
Thank you so much. That is very, very, very important to, because like in all these positions that you mentioned, I'm a volunteer in this position. Like in the UN and UNESCO and the IEEE, I'm a volunteer. Because I believe in that work, and I believe that work can give a great contribution to the global society. Mainly for the people that came from the vulnerable communities, from the poor region around the globe. And the participation of the Global South, it's very important, because every time that you discuss topics like ethics, robotics, artificial intelligence, the discussion are concentrated in the global north, like US, Canada, Europe, and not in the global south, like Africa, Latin America. That is pretty dangerous, because if you consider some solutions that are developed in Europe, you try to apply in the global south, that solution probably will not fit perfectly, because you have a lot of particularities. You have different values, different principles that you need to pay attention when you develop solutions based on artificial intelligence, for instance.
I see.
Our reality is very different.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are very the great approach to deploy those philosophical things to the tech industry for the futures, especially like robotics part of your main focus areas. So let's move to the next questions from these contexts. It's, you are part of the university lectures as well. Then you working on the robotics research lab in Brazil. So what kind of theme are you teaching for the students as well as the working on this lab?
That's a very interesting question, because it's not also so obvious. My background, it's in computer science. So I got my bachelor, my master, in my master degree, and my PhD in computer science. And during the time that I was a student, I worked with different domains of computer science. So in Brazil, I teach some class in computer science, more math course, like combinatorics, like graph theory, but also in robotics, mobile robotics. So I provide knowledge, or provide content for the students in that domain. In that domain, I address that domain from the computer scientist perspective. So I'm not creating robots, but I teach how to use that robot. Like, for instance, I want to implement a system where the robot should collect sonar lasers readings and make the robot navigate autonomously in an environment and create a map. So how to take into consideration these readings to create a map, and how to make the robot to take the decisions to navigate to regions that it does not know previously. Or how I can make a drone to determine its localization if this drone does not have a GPS signal. So how to create a map from a specific region using only camera information. So that is the kind of research that I'm pursuing in my group, together with some information or some knowledge about the combinatorics and graph theory. So I teach a part of robotics domain, a part of computer science domain.
I see. That's a very mixing approach that I have not imagined it. It's not just making a robot, it's just a kind of the control the using the robots for the societies. This is the future way that we need to build in considerations. What kind of the benefit to use the robot in the societies? So in the processes, I think the robot is very autonomous machines. In that sense, we need to take care about the robotic decisions. Through some movies or any our imaginations, once a robot is been like they control themselves, like it's just a kind of the fight against the human beings or anything. In that sense, it's just a kind of destroyers in our societies. I think it's a very important to put the ethical decision in the robotics operations. So how we can make things that happens in ethical robotics from your perspective?
That's quite interesting question, because if you take into consideration the robotics, the artificial intelligence movie, these movies are very scary because they paint a very dystopian future where you have robots as slavery people, we have a mass of jobless populations and so on. But if you go to the technical domain, you see that the reality are totally different. We have a system that are not intelligent or have the intelligence of a cricket. So it's you do not have a intelligent system. The artificial intelligence domain, you have a lot of marketing surround this domain. Some people say or state that artificial intelligence is a domain that you create a highly intelligent system. But what exactly is intelligence? Okay, what exactly is intelligence? Intelligence is much more than only to try to find a global minimum in a specific function. It's much more than try to solve quickly a problem. Because when you try to solve quickly a problem, we use other parts of our intelligence, like our social intelligence, our interpersonal intelligence. We use cultural intelligence. So at that moment, people are devoted their time to create a system that can find a solution in the fastest way. So that is not intelligence. So if you want to create a system that are ethically aligned, first of all, we need to discuss what is intelligence. We need to you need to create a clear awareness about that.
Mhm.
Because if you understand what intelligence means, you will see the limitations of this domain. You will see that system cannot replace humans.
Mhm.
That's the first part, because we are much more than machines. And if you want to create a system that are ethically aligned, we need to pay attention to the cultures of the values of the different cultures. We need to pay attention to the mechanisms that allow us to understand the behavior of the machine, to check if what are the source of the errors. We need to create regulations that allow us to appoint who is accountable or who is legally responsible in case of failures. So we need to have a mechanism to protect the people, to protect the data of the people. So data privacy and data protection are essential. So for us, ethically aligned system, robotics or artificial intelligence system, need to take into consideration a whole new domain, like a combination of sociology, anthropology. We need to have a combination of legal domain. So all these elements will look into the domain and see this domain in the holistic way. Okay, like as I mentioned, if I want to create some regulation, I need to take into consideration the local legislation in different countries. If I want to create a system that will not impact in our values, we need to understand the humans. Just a quick example. For instance, in Japan, okay, it's common to keep the eye contact for a long period of time. What is the meaning? If you look straight to a person for a long period of time, depends on the hierarchy of the person, that could indicate some aggressive behaviors, could indicate harassment. So the distance that you keep in a conversation should be pay attention also. But this distance, the eye contact, are different across the cultures. For Brazilian, that is very common to keep a long eye contact, to keep near the person when you are talking. So observe these elements varies across different cultures. So if I created a robot in Brazil that will be used in Japan, you have a shock because the robot cannot be adapted to the local culture. That can create embarrassment in several different situations.
I see. That's very interesting. Ideas. We can see that a lot of the robots in some retail stores, such as in the one Japanese telecommunication company has invented. They cooperated with the French robotics companies. We see it's very usual when you go to the store to buy the phones or mobile, the contract. Those robots is supported the direction, the navigation. They try to make more human kind of robots. It's just a kind of the communication based. Is a very cute style, the smalls. So far we see that a lot of the kind of robots such as the pet styles, or it's a very different in the different cultures. So I think this part is a very important point. I found it that's you were saying it's about very important to put the diversified perspective when it's come to put the ethical decisions, such as like I'm a Japanese, but you are Brazilians. We have a different backgrounds, different cultures. of course, in this sense, we have a different inheritances to judge anything, the specific object. In the processes, we need to be inclusive those ideas for the best practice, then the customized, the human-centric. So this is the one thing that I'm supposed to from your idea. It's a very insightful with me as well. So yeah, go on to the next topics because it's include the same ideas. You're working on the UN high-level panel. Maybe those member is coming from the many different countries. You said that from Japan, there's some people is from Korea and China. It's Asian. There's some African people is coming, Latina, the Americans, the Europeans. I think those action is a very primary thing is to put the diversified inclusions to make global messages for each countries. I lead up in the roadmaps many things inclusion such as privacy protections, ethics. So I'm wondering how we can make it incorporated together through those activities. So what kind of the challenging for us to achieve these goals?
You have a lot of challenges. Yeah, a lot of challenge. Like if you consider the UN activities, like my participation in the UN high-level panel on digital cooperation. The proposal of this panel, it was to establish or thinking about a different kind of cooperation in the digital domain to try to mitigate any negative impact of digital technology and try to reap all the benefits of digital technology. Observe that the goals are pretty broad, because when you think about the digital technology, you are thinking about myriads of different kind of technology that has different kind of components. And if we analyze this domain, you'll see that you need to discuss since the infrastructure to the regulations. Because if you want to create equality in this domain, it's necessary that all of us have affordable and high quality access to the internet, and that is not present those days. If you check some communities in the Africa, if you check some community in the South America, you see that this community even do not have electricity. So if you do not have electricity, they will be behind of all this advancement in this domain. So that is the very first element that we need to pay attention. If you want to create equality in our society. So internet is a very important topic. Another very important topic, it's about the artificial intelligence per se, because at the same time that artificial intelligence can bring a lot of benefits, I believe all of us can see clearly this, because we can create new business models, not business in fact. We can create, for instance, a new system that can help people to be better educated, more personalized system. We can create system that can take the healthcare to the next level, like more personalized healthcare systems. You can have a precision farm through the use of drones. You can have a safe drive and so on. But we can also have the possibility that the systems are not well used or are not used for good. At some point, if you do not take all this ethical, all this cooperation into account, you can have a system that you decide if you should leave or not. That is pretty dangerous. Machines took life and death decisions. And I'm not talking only about the little autonomous weapon system, but I'm talking about medical systems. Who should receive medical treatment if the hospital are totally full? If you're not trained that kind of system correctly, so we can have a wrong decision based on the wrong premises, wrong data. So another point is how we can map the human rights to the digital domain. That is, for me, it's crucial, because I'm not sure the education in the Japan, but here, when you go to the domains like electrical engineers, robotics, and so on, we do not pay attention. We do not receive formal training on social domain. So we are trained to create system. We are trained to program that system, but not thinking in the implication of the system. So when you create some system, we do not reflect what are the implications, the potential implication of the system in the society. So you have several human rights instruments that analyze the human under different lenses. But the question is how we can take into consideration each principle in the digital domain. What would be the mapping of the quality of life, standard of living in the for a person in the vulnerable community, or respect for a privacy and family, or respect for the quality of the information received. Okay, so all these elements in this instrument are very relevant, but you do not have a direct mapping. So in the UN work, you try to shed light of all this challenge, and you propose several recommendations regarding artificial intelligence, regarding human rights, regarding the internet connectivity, regarding the cyber security, regarding the global cooperation. And another point, for instance, like let's think about Japan. Japan produce a lot of data because they have a lot of systems running. Everyone's like to use some application, mobile phone, use application to interact with people. Like you mentioned, you can see several robots, several systems interact with people. So you have a lot of data. But in some particular country, people do not have access to this data because of some basic elements. So if you want to create new business, you need to have this data, but not all kind of data. But some people do not even have access to the data. So how they will create a solution that will not cause any harm to the others? That is impossible because all the solutions are anchored on data. So one of our proposals is to create a platform for data sharing. So this platform would contain data, high quality data from different companies, from different organizations that will enable the generation of a new business model.
I see.
So observe that it's all these points that I mentioned are very broad because the domain are very broad.
I understand. Yeah, the data sharing is the key part of the elements. I still work at education's field, I see that a lot of the people still, even this market, this society in Japan, we have some behinds. The people is not using the internet, the technologies. Um, so this means those people is not being inclusive to the provisions of technologies. There are also some benefits, um, but the technology is the going to grow much faster. But behind those gaps, it's been spreading these times. I found it. This is the succeeding the topics to the next. I think in the AI, the ethics, a lot of the companies, a lot of the startups is developing the new technologies such as the machine learning, artificial intelligence. But the problem is now is in they have a lot of the bias. The tech guys, the tech people is coming from the very small parts of the societies. They develop the technologies, even the open source. I've been involved with some of the open source project, but the people is a very small communities. But those technology could be penetrated to the societies. It's a very small biased. So such as in the gender bias, the philosophies, the racism, and all of these things there. From your experience in UNESCO, so how we can cover the AI and ethics topics in terms of technical society in the futures?
That's a very interesting question again. That is do not have a simple solution because we need to pay attention to the AI technology in the holistic way. Like if you want to create a human-centric society, you need to consider like infrastructure. That is very important, because otherwise, if you do not have infrastructure, you will amplify the digital gap. We need to reform our educational system. That is crucial. That is very, very important, because you need to, of course, reinforce or strengthen the education in the STEM domain, like science, engineer, technology, and math. Okay, but that is not enough. For instance, if you consider all this negative impact on this kind of technology on global society, who create this impact? Or who create these problems? People that have a strong background on technology. Okay, so if you focus only in STEM courses, you have an amplification of the status quo. So it's necessary that this education take into consideration other elements, like people should understand other people. People should understand other positions, should interact better with other people. We should the education should focus on not only in problem solving, but also in critical thinking. So you need to stimulate people in more soft qualities or more soft education, like critical thinking, interpersonal, intrapersonal communication, empathy. So all these elements are very important. So we need to reform the education. And that is very important. That is one of the very important topic if you want to move to the AI technology, so a society based on AI technology. But you need to also consider other elements. For instance, you mentioned about the gender. Gender is very important. We need to promote the education for girls and women. Why is necessary? Because if you not make this promotion, you not give the opportunity to get a good job in the future. Otherwise, the women and girls will be moved to other domain that will be automatized. Do you understand what I mean? So it's necessary to be very inclusive, but it's necessary to be very inclusive in the other sense. And not only the girls and women, but the whole society. Because otherwise the technology will be very biased. Very, very biased in the sense that they can be defined who should be adequate for a particular position based on the data. But if the data said, for instance, in the case of girls and women, that a woman did not occupy a high level position in the company, this AI system will say, you said that a woman do not fit for that position. And other aspects are related also to the data privacy protection. That is very, very important. We need to add in some extra level of data protection, because from our data, we can extract any kind of information. We can extract habits, we can extract values, preference. And if a system has this kind of information, the person behind that system can use that system to manipulate that person, because this person knows exactly what the user thinks. That's pretty dangerous. That's why we have a long discussion, global discussion, about the proliferation of fake news. At that moment in Brazil, we have a very polarized society, where the society are divided into US and China. Okay, so people said, okay, I will not take the vaccines developed by China because of proliferation of fake news. So that is a point. Another point that is very important for AI is how we can manage the situation that can lead to harms. Like you created a system in Japan, and this system is adopted in Brazil, or vice versa. What happens if the system fails? Who will be accountable? Who will be responsible? That the fail can lead to a death situation. So we need to blame someone. Someone should be ascribed legal responsibility. If we do not establish a multilateral cooperation in that domain, we cannot ascribe legal responsibility properly. And so in that case, one of the proposals in UNESCO is to have any kind of governance mechanism that is based on multilateral. So it's necessary to have a cooperation among countries. Multidisciplinary, that is very important, because the technology should be viewed not only from the technical point of view. Okay, so multidisciplinary, multilateral, and also I forgot, multi-stakeholder. So we need to have a collaboration among academia, civil society, okay, governmental agents, because all of us have a part of knows a part of the discussion. So policymakers do not understand technology, and we, as someone that are developed technology, do not understand politics, do not understand how to approve laws. So it's necessary to have all these elements together in the same table to discuss how to govern artificial intelligence.
I see. Yeah, that's a very insightful feedbacks. So what do you think we can do for the ethical decisions from tomorrow? I guess a lot of the people is worried about these things, but it's very hard to make an answers themselves. I think it's we have a very small step, such as like make a communications, listening the voice first, or just making actions, not just to be involved with the one communities. There need to be a much more involvement. So that's a kind of the solution. So what do you think it's the first step for us to go to the ethical technologies?
I think the very first step is to create a global awareness about
Mm,
the technology. That is very important because most of the people that do not understand technology is thinks that artificial intelligence systems are intelligent.
mm,
That I think is the very first mistake. And that includes not only naive person that do not have a strong background on education, but also involve policymakers. Let's think about a policymaker that believes that AI system can be applied in the justice system to output some penal decisions. If this person believes that the system are fair, neutral, are intelligent, they will apply. This person will apply. This person will
mhm,
apply this system in the real world. So, see, as you know, this system are biased. This system are not intelligent. Contains a lot of problems. What will happen will be a proliferation of bad decisions, but at scale. It's not only one decision. We
mhm,
have several decision happens and causing a huge impact on several people. If you move to countries like Brazil, it's a good example for this kind of situations because we have several problems in our country. Like Brazil is racist. So what happens if you implement all this racism that happens in our society?
mhm,
We have black people being penalized much more than white people, even if these people did for different race did the same thing. So we amplify the racism, we amplify the misogyny. So it's necessary first to create a global awareness. It's necessary that people understand this technology, understand their rights, because that is very important. In the recent past, uh, the Brazilian government implemented a kind of GDPR, a legislation for data protection.
mhm,
But before that, the company collected data, and based on that data, uh, the, based on that data, take some decision like provide or not credit, or for instance, rise or lower the limit of the credit, or even identify if someone is stealing energy in the energy company, and
mhm,
several other examples. But the question is how someone that do not have a good educational background can go against the system. So to thinking about the ethical
mhm.
dimension in this holistic way is also to create or provide a mechanism for the general public to protect themselves from the abuse from the companies and also from the government.
Yeah,
So that's the very first step.
yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. We can find our own directions, what we can do as a first step. This is everybody can do that. So I'm sorry that the time has come. It's very exciting, given we are having those discussion. So lastly, I like to ask you the one message to the listeners, mostly the Japanese or my followers. So that's very happy to give a message from you that.
First of all, I'm very happy and be here, and also I'm very happy and have you all here because this topic it's very important, and I'm double happy for you consider the ethical dimension on the development of technology. This topic is urgent, and also is a subject that matters for all of us because we are involved in the development of technology. So we are part of the solution and part of this problem. If you want to create a more peaceful, more uh, more fair world, it's necessary that we put the human in the center of technology. So for you, for Japanese deliver a lot of technology in robotics and artificial intelligence that are developed, deployed, and deliverable for all the world. So I believe certainly that the Japan can be a leader in the ethical artificial intelligence, ethical robotics, and can be an example for the world. So the solution and the problem are part of us. And as I can observe that you are interested in creating solutions that can promote the quality of life and the standard of living of people around the globe. So thank you so much and congratulations for this effort, for your interest in joining this debate.
Yeah, I'm very glad to be and delighted for this having a talk with you these topics. Besides, I'm happy to gonna involve some more people to come on board these conversations. Not only for the technical people, but also there's some people is working on the civil actions or politics. So many things need to be inclusions in that sense. So, Ms. Edson, thank you for joining it today. I'm very honored to have a talk with you this moment. And also, I'm very glad to reach the people who want to be involved with TNA together through these interviews. So let's have a great conversation. Thank you, Edson, for coming today. Let's keep an update together.
ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございます。Thank you.
Bye.